Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Please, may we know your name, sir?
My name is Real Everbest.
Okay, Lee Babes, please, we have a question for you. Please, can you give us your response concerning the interview that His Excellency Mr. Pitobi had yesterday with the Channel Television? Can you give us your take, what you take in from there? Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. You can see every time P2B gives interview, there is always a lot of reactions. It's like Nigerians are always waiting for him to speak. There are so many takeaways from that interview yesterday. At least P2B tried to speak on very cogent national issues, speak on security, speak on pulling people out of poverty, speak on leadership and how it is that he's going to lead, from the front. And he touched a whole lot of things, going from way back when he was governor of Anambra State. But of course, a lot of questions that were put to him yesterday by Seun Okinbaloue of Channel Television were questions that has been asked over and over and over again. And it now looked as though it's just like people regurgitating a dead issue. And for a whole lot of us who are supporters of P2B, somehow those questions were boring in the sense that those questions are questions that P2B has answered times and times again. One would have expected that a good journalist will actually ask questions that are pertinent, questions that are urgent and needed in the now, questions that will give vent to a lot of the reality of today. But unfortunately, there are this level of laziness, should I say, that exists within the Nigerian journalistic space. And what do I mean by that? In other claim, it is the duty of journalists to actually search or research for the truth. Whenever there is a burning national issues or whenever there is an accusation, it is the duty of journalists to go out of their space to go and find out the truth. Because when there are counter narrations and counter narrations, it is incumbent on journalists to step out of their comfort zone, take their cameras, go to the very place that that is being talked about to verify issues. One would have expected that by now journalists in Nigeria should be able to know, did P2B build schools when he was a governor of Anambra State? Did P2B steal the money of Anambra people? Did P2B do all those things that he has been saying he did while he was a governor? It is not for P2B to continue to answer those questions at this moment. It's supposed to be for journalists to have gone out of their way to say, yes, we've gone to verify this thing. Even when other people come to speak on those, journalists should be able to say, no, you cannot longer say P2B did not build school. We've gone to verify in Anambra State, P2B built school. It is the duty of the journalist to say, no, we've gone to verify that when P2B was governor of Anambra State, he did not tag the Northerners. It is the duty of journalists to say, no, P2B did not steal Anambra State money. Because P2B, these things are not secret. P2B say, I kept money in Diamond Bank, I saved money in Fidelity Bank, I saved money in Access Bank. It is not P2B to continue to say these things again. It is supposed to be journalists that are supposed to be coming to say, we have gone to Diamond Bank, we can verify. That is what happens in other I watch journalists around the world, from CNN, from Fox News, from Washington Post, from New York Times, all these journalists around the world, or BBC around the world, you see journalists, they hold the feet of politicians to fire, and they don't just do narration, they don't just cause confusion, they don't just help the opposition or the ruling party to peddle either their lies, or they make sure they go and say, no, this is what we have found out. They bring receipts. But in Nigeria, most times our journalists actually helped the confusion. The work of a journalist, like somebody have said, I think it was Mendy that said, the work of a journalist should be, if somebody says rain is falling, if Mr. A says rain is falling and Mr. B says rain is not falling, it is the duty of the journalist to go outside and find out whether rain is falling or not. And when he finds that truth, he will come out to say, no, it's raining, or no, it's not, yes, it's not raining. So that is some of the things that got to my nerves in that interview. The fact that questions that have been asked for P2B over and over and over again. And each time he has a sit down with journalists, instead of them to ask questions that are relevant to the issues in the now, they still keep going back as though they are in the same WhatsApp group, trying to, I was surprised that Shegu was asking P2B, clarify that you built school when you're in Anambra State. Clarify that you did not tag the Northerners. And even P2B, what's his name? Shegu even tried to ask questions that are very pathetic, in the sense that when he asks questions like, ask question about the Civil War, ask question about the 1960s coup. And one thing that is very, very, very surprising is that Shehu asked question about the January 15, 1966 coup, and he failed to ask the one of July, because there was a coup and there was a counter coup. And in those coups, Nigerians were killed. Nigerians of all, were killed. In the January, the first military coup, Northerners were killed, which is very unfortunate that such thing happened. And in the counter coup, a lot of Nigerians, especially of Igbo extraction, were killed. It's a national tragedy that no side, whether people from the north or people from the east, you understand, no one is happy about that. Now, nobody should rejoice over what happened. It is our past. It is a history that we are supposed to reconcile. So in that reconciliation, it is not just reconciling only the north. It's also reconciling both the north and the south, both the northerners who were also victims of that coup, and also the Igbos who were also victims of the general. And again, it has been said, even the recent publication by General Ibrahim Babangida, who himself was part of that coup, has come to say, against the backdrop of a book that he wrote, he has come to say that it is not an Igbo coup. So for journalists to continue to make it look as though, it's an Igbo coup, it is an original sin that Igbos are supposed to atone for, and not the rest of them, it's just quite unfortunate. And for journalists who should know better, because for me, most of the question he asks is like a blood label. It's like trying to make people be a culprit of what happened in 1960s. It's like trying to make people be a culprit of the Civil War. Both the North and the East and the West, everybody need to heal. And like something that P2B said, if you're saying that, a certain part of the country has not been, okay, it is an opportunity. Abiola died in this country, and a time came when Obasanjo, people came and say, because of the death of Abiola, that people came and say, Yoruba people should produce the president. And in that year, 1999, it was only the Obasanjo that became the president of, Olufalaye and Obasanjo that contested for that election. And the idea was to heal, the death of Abiola. And all this while, even the Civil War, Igbo people have voted General Muhammad Shagari. Igbo people voted Shagari. Igbo people voted Yaradua. A lot of Igbo people also voted Buhari. So this idea that, with the Northerners vote, we've been voting the Northerners. So Northerners voting an Igbo person is not something that is new. It's not something that is novel, because even when Ojukwu, who was the principal actor in that one, when he came back in 1982 in 1983, he joined the MPN. The MPN was seen then as a national party. Of course, the person who was the leader of that party that time was, Alhaji Shehu Shagari. Ojukwu, who was a principal actor of that war, joined MPN, even against the backdrop of a lot of the Easterners, who by then was, a lot of them were in MPP. Also remember that people like Achebe also joined people like Aminu, joined Aminu Kanu, was a big ally of Aminu Kanu and others. So Nigeria has a history that most times when we look back at it, there are so many things we should learn. But the point I'm making in this interview is to say that our journalists should do better. Our journalists should ask questions that are relevant to now. Our journalists should also go out of their comfort zone to make research. It is not for them to add in the confusion. It is not for them to add in these people who come to peddle lies. And again, I also want to say that while P2B is always making himself available to answer questions, the journalists should also insist that Tinubu, the person who claimed that he won the last election, the person who is the president of Nigeria today, at least should also come and answer questions. While P2B is making his time to come and answer questions, the person who is ruling us, the person who say we voted him, the person who say he won the election, he should come and answer questions. And for the Abadorians who is always saying, P2B, let your president, the person you support, let him come and debate. Let him come and answer questions. It's not to do media chat. It's not to go and hide in a bunker like P2B said. It's not to go and hide in Asirok. Let him come and answer questions. Let him come and tell us how he's solving insecurity. Let him come and tell us his economic policy. Let him come and explain it to us. Let him come and tell us, since he did not do better in the past 4 years, how he's going to do, what is his plan for the next 4 years, because since he's seeking for the election. So let him come. Journalists in Nigeria should insist that Tinubu comes out to speak to us, because he cannot hide in Asirok and will now have people that we did not elect. We now have a lot of miscreants, a lot of people like Boalas, a lot of people like Rono Mokri, a lot of people like his media aide, what is his name? Anonuga, coming to peddle lies and all the rest of them. We did not vote those people. Tinubu should come out and have an interview. In fact, I'm challenging them today that all the Abadorians that is insulting our principal, that is saying Opitobi, please, I want you, in your honor, in the honor of your family name, in the honor of whatever you worship and respect, are you going to accept that Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to come on a debate? Is he going to come? Is Bola Ahmed Tinubu going to come on a debate? Because that is where we are waiting for you people. It is so shameful that you people does not have shame. Every time, P2B is always going. P2B is everywhere. He visits every state of the country. He goes abroad, he speaks, he delivers speeches and all the rest of them. And yet people say, oh, P2B did not say anything. Please, can we now hear from your principal? Can we now hear from your Abado master? Can we now hear from Balablu? Can we now hear from Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Can we now hear from him? Can he now come and defend his policies? Can he now come and defend his monetary policies, his economic policies, his security policies? Let him come and defend them. Enough of all this, P2B comes to speak on national issues. He says, P2B did not say anything. Let Bola Ahmed Tinubu come and say something. In summary, Nigerian journalists should do better. It is time for them to go out of their comfort zone, to actually investigate. They are the one who should be the one telling they are the truth bearers. The journalists are, the press is the fourth estate of the realm. They are also part of the society. They are also part of the system. If any country works, the journalists or press in that country are part of development of any country. And therefore, the press should act as though they are part of the developmental process of this society. They should stop acting as though they are aloof. They should not stop acting as though, we don't want them to take side. Don't take side of the opposition and don't take side of the ruling party. Be a neutral arbiter. You're the people who should go out and investigate the truth. And when you investigate the truth, you should come and speak it. You're the one who should come and say, P2B save money, we have gone to investigate. You're the one who will say, P2B build school, we have gone to investigate. You're the one that will have to put all this in so that this confusion will stop. Let us begin to discuss, how are we going to fix Nigeria? How are we going to fix insecurity in this country? How are we going to fix infrastructure? How are we going to fix the health sector? How are we going to fix education? And how are we going to actually carry the Nigerian youths, along? Today, Nigerians cannot sleep with their two eyes, cannot go to bed with their two eyes closed. Nigerians cannot walk freely on Nigerian road. In fact, I was at the airport last Sunday and I saw that there are a lot of people in that airport. A lot of them, I met somebody who said he borrowed money to fly. Nigerians, even when they ply the road because they don't have money to fly, they carry their Bible and their Quran and they'll be praying all through until they go to their destination. We don't have to live in fear in our country. Enough is enough. And this election will be about competence, it will be about capacity, it will be about character, it will be somebody who has a proven record, it will be somebody whose history we can verify, and not people who come up with a lot of fraudulent, we don't know their name, we don't know the state they came from. Some people say he came from Osun State, some people say he came from Lagos. I've had Senate was debating, somebody in the Senate said, this man is from my place, and Senate president said, it's not from your place, it's from Lagos. So we have a president, nobody knows where he came from, nobody knows his real name, nobody where he went to school, nobody knows anything about him. And yet, there are people in this country who are sane, who claim to be educated, and yet those are the kind of person they follow. And when they see a man whose history we can verify, whose educational background we can verify, whose state we know we can verify, that is the person who say, he doesn't know what he's talking about. We've lived off this confusion, and enough is enough. It is time we put an end put an end to this whole confusion and move Nigeria forward. A new Nigeria is possible, and a new Nigeria is coming. With P2B and Kwankwaso, Nigeria is okay.